Some adventures test human limits, and some end in devastating tragedy. In this video, we uncover 5 of the most disturbing outdoor deaths ever recorded. Chilling incidents where nature's raw power collides with human vulnerability. These are not just accidents. They are haunting, heartbreaking moments that leave a lasting impact long after they happen. Each story stands as a stark reminder of how quickly awe and excitement can turn into something terrifying. In July 2025, 49-year-old Omar Farang Zin set out on a solo motorcycle journey through the Romanian Carpathians, a place known for its breathtaking beauty and something far more dangerous lurking beneath it. To Omar, this wasn't just a trip, it was freedom. It was an adventure. Friends knew him as the kind of person who chased moments like these, always smiling, always searching for the beauty in the world. And in Romania, he thought he had found it. The Transfăgărășan Highway stretched out before him like a dream, often called one of the most scenic roads on Earth. Towering peaks, dense forests, and a raw, untamed wilderness that felt almost unreal. But what makes a place beautiful can also make it deadly, because hidden within those forests is one of Europe's largest populations of brown bears, powerful, unpredictable, and fiercely protective. And Omar couldn't stay away. The day before everything went wrong, he shared glimpses of his journey online. Videos of himself riding past bears, stopping, watching them, getting closer. In one clip, you can hear the admiration in his voice as he calls one of them beautiful, completely unaware of just how dangerous that moment really was. In another, he smiles for a selfie beside a bear cub. It looks harmless, almost magical. But if you know anything about wildlife, you already feel that tension building. Because where there's a cub, the mother is never far behind. His phone would later tell the full story. Dozens of close-up photos, moments where the animals weren't just in the distance. They were approaching him, watching him, deciding. Then came July 3rd. Somewhere near Lake Vidraru, along that same breathtaking route, Omar stopped again. Another encounter, another moment of curiosity, but this time, it wasn't just a passing glance. Authorities believe he tried to get even closer, possibly even feed the bear. And in that single decision, everything changed. Because this wasn't just any bear, it was a mother. And in the wild, there is nothing more dangerous than a mother protecting her cubs. What happened next unfolded in seconds, but it was brutal. The bear charged. Fast, powerful, unstoppable. There was no time to react, no time to escape. It attacked with overwhelming force, dragging Omar's body deep into a ravine, disappearing into the wilderness as quickly as it had appeared. By the time emergency responders arrived, the scene was already tense and getting worse. The same bear was still there, still aggressive, still circling. Rescuers searching the area found themselves under threat, forced to move carefully as the animal returned again and again, as if guarding the site. It took nearly an hour to reach the ravine, and when they finally did, it was already too late. Omar had suffered catastrophic injuries. Even with full protective gear, even with a helmet, none of it stood a chance against the raw power of the attack. The wilderness doesn't play by human rules. It doesn't care how prepared you think you are. The bear was later tracked and euthanized. Officials said the risk was too high to leave it alive. But as tragic as that is, the deeper truth is even more unsettling. This didn't have to happen. Warnings had been posted, clear instructions not to approach or feed wildlife, but at that moment those warnings were ignored, and the consequences were irreversible. After his death, tributes flooded in. Friends and colleagues remembered Omar as someone who embraced life fully, someone who saw wonder where others saw risk. And maybe that's what makes this story so haunting, because his final post, filled with awe, with excitement, with genuine appreciation for the wild, now feel different.
In May of 2016, thru-hiker Ian Crombie was stumbling through the snow in northern New Mexico on the Continental Divide Trail, or CDT for short.
It was November 14th, 2015, when 59-year-old Stephen Otter Olansky, known simply as Otter among fellow hikers, stepped onto the trail, unaware he was beginning his final journey. He wasn't inexperienced. In fact, he was the opposite. A seasoned outdoorsman, Otter had already achieved the legendary Triple Crown of hiking, completing the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail. This was supposed to be just another challenge, his fifth trek along the Continental Divide Trail, 75 miles from Cumbres Pass to Ghost Ranch, something he believed he could handle. He packed carefully, 2 weeks of supplies, a red and gray tent, winter gear, everything he thought he would need, and maybe that was the first mistake. Believing experience alone could carry him through what was coming, because from the very first steps, something felt wrong. The trail wasn't just difficult, it was punishing. Snow lay thicker and heavy than expected, swallowing the path beneath it. Temperatures dropped well below freezing, turning every breath into a battle. This wasn't the kind of cold you push through. This was the kind that slowly takes control. Before setting out, Otter had stayed in Chama, New Mexico, preparing for the journey. He told his friend Ben Whitting he would check in after 10 days. And if he didn't, Ben should call for help. At the time, it probably sounded like a precaution, but out there, it would become something far more serious. With every mile, the situation worsened. The snow dragged him down step by step. Progress slowed to a crawl. What should have been a steady journey turned into an exhausting fight for survival. His journal would later reveal the truth. This wasn't just physical anymore. It was mental. The creeping realization that something had gone very wrong. At one point, he tried to turn back, but even that wasn't possible. He managed barely a mile before his body gave out beneath him. Completely drained, he collapsed, forced to return to his campsite, trapped, alone, surrounded by nothing but endless snow and silence. There was no easy way out anymore, only one option left: endure. Days passed, then more days. The cold didn't ease, it tightened its grip. Frostbite began to set in, slowly claiming parts of his body. Hunger weakened him further. Every movement became harder, every decision heavier. And in the middle of it all, Otter began to accept something terrifying. He had made a mistake. In his journal and video recordings, he didn't hide from it. He said it plainly. He shouldn't have come out here. Not in these conditions, not this late in the season. One entry stands out above the rest. Raw, honest, and heartbreaking. He expressed hope that Ben would follow through, that someone would come looking, but time was slipping away. Ben didn't raise the alarm until November 29th, more than 2 weeks later. And by then, the wilderness had already taken control of the situation. Search and rescue teams moved in, scanning the vast frozen landscape, but it was like searching for a single trace in an endless white void. Otter's phone had died, cutting off any chance of tracking him. Still, even in those final days, he didn't give up. He left signs. A large "help" message carved into the snow. A fire lit inside a wooden shelter. Even makeshift skis, crafted from metal, in a desperate attempt to move through the deep snow. Every action showed the same thing. He was still fighting, but the wilderness was stronger. Weeks passed. Winter deepened, and somewhere out there, alone in the silence, Otter's strength finally gave out. By February 2016, the cold, the isolation, and the hunger had done what nothing else could. They ended his journey. It wasn't until April 7th, 2016 that someone finally found him. Fellow hiker Ian Cromie arrived at Lake Anita campground and noticed something chilling immediately. A message scratched into a restroom door. Dead CDT hiker in sight. Call cops. Inside, Otter's body lay where his fight had ended. Nearby, a note confirmed who he was and urged whoever found him to alert authorities. When his journals were recovered, they told the full story. Not just of survival, but of realization. Otter didn't blame anyone else. He understood what had happened. He took responsibility, he expressed regret, and even in those final entries he thanked the people in his life.
29-year-old Google engineer dies in freak accident on popular Yosemite Trail. Angela Lin, who worked as a software engineer for about 6 years at Salesforce and then Google, was hiking on July 19 with her boyfriend and 2 friends on a trail that wound through the Tuolumne Grove of towering sequoias.
It was July 19, 2025, in Yosemite National Park, a place people go to feel alive, to to breathe, to escape, not a place where anyone expects to come face to face with death. Angela Lynn, just 29 years old, had planned nothing more than a peaceful weekend hike. She was there with her boyfriend, David Hua, and two close friends, walking through Alumni Grove, a quiet trail surrounded by towering sequoias, glowing under the warm California sun. It felt safe, calm, ordinary. Angela was the cautious one, the one who read every sign, followed every rule, stayed exactly where she was supposed to. And that day, everything seemed perfect. Clear blue sky, still air, not even the slightest hint of wind, but sometimes danger doesn't announce itself. They were standing beneath the trees, taking in the view, when the silence suddenly shattered. A loud, sharp crack echoed from above. Just one sound, but it was enough. David would later say it all happened in 2, maybe 3 seconds. A noise, a shadow, and then chaos. Massive branches came crashing down. One of them struck Angela. David instinctively shut his eyes for a split second, and when he opened them, everything had changed. She was on the ground, lying face up, completely still. Blood began to spread beneath her head. He rushed to her side, dropping to his knees, calling her name over and over, hoping for any sign, anything. His hands shook as he dialed 911. Then, he did the only thing he could. He tried to bring her back, performing CPR, refusing to stop, refusing to believe it was already too late. But it was. When paramedics arrived, the reality hit harder than anything else. They said the impact had been so severe, she likely died instantly. There was nothing anyone could have done. Authorities later confirmed the cause: accidental blunt force trauma, a falling tree branch. And that's what makes it even more unsettling. Angela did everything right. David struggled to accept it. The lack of answers weighed on him so heavily that he eventually spoke out publicly, searching for some kind of explanation, anything that could make sense of what had happened in those few seconds. But there were no answers. Only silence. Someone who witnessed the aftermath later wrote online that the memory never left them. They described the group as careful, doing nothing wrong, and yet everything still went wrong. Life can be so cruel, they wrote, and Angela's story only makes it harder to process. She wasn't just another visitor, she was brilliant. She graduated from UC Berkeley, went on to earn her master's from UT Austin, built a career at Salesforce, and later joined Google. Colleagues remembered her as kind, thoughtful, and uplifting. The kind of person who would bring chocolate to late-night study sessions just to keep everyone smiling. She loved dancing, singing, hiking. She loved life in all its simple, beautiful moments. And she loved David. They had known each other since college. He described her as the most careful person he had ever met, which is why this didn't feel like a random accident to him. It felt unreal, like a nightmare that refused to make sense. 1 second of silence, one crack of wood, one moment that shattered everything. In November 1983, the freezing waters off Norway's coast churned beneath the massive Byford Dolphin oil rig, an industrial giant suspended over one of the most dangerous environments on Earth. Far below the surface, a team of saturation divers had just completed their shift. These weren't ordinary workers. They were men trained to survive crushing pressure, darkness, and isolation. But that night, something went wrong. Not just wrong, catastrophically wrong. Saturation diving is a world few people can even imagine. Divers live for weeks inside pressurized steel chambers, their bodies adjusted to the same extreme conditions found hundreds of feet underwater. It's the only way to avoid the bends, a deadly condition caused by rapid pressure changes. Every movement, every step of the process is calculated, controlled, precise. Because down here, even the smallest mistake doesn't just cause problems, it kills. On November 5th, everything seemed routine. The divers had returned from their dive and climbed into the diving bell, the small, sealed capsule that would carry them back to their living chamber aboard the rig. They were exhausted, but safe. Just one final procedure remained. The bell had to be securely attached to the chamber, pressure equalized, and only then could the clamp be released. It was a sequence everyone knew by heart, but something slipped. No one has ever been able to say for sure what caused it: fatigue, miscommunication, or a critical oversight. but the clamp was released too early, just seconds too soon, before the pressure inside the system could stabilize. And in that instant, everything broke. The internal pressure, 9 times greater than normal atmospheric levels, exploded outward the moment it was exposed. The force was immediate, violent, unstoppable. The diving bell tore away from the rig. The tender standing closest to the mechanism was struck instantly, killed before he could even react. But inside the chamber, it was far worse. The 4 divers had no chance to escape, no time to process what was happening. The sudden decompression hit with unimaginable force. The gases dissolved in their blood expanded instantly, ripping through their bodies from the inside. It wasn't just death, it was destruction in its most extreme form. For one diver, positioned closest to the opening, the force was beyond comprehension. The pressure difference pulled his body toward the breach, forcing it through an opening far too small to contain it. What followed was so violent, so unnatural, that it left even experienced investigators shaken. His body was torn apart. The aftermath was something no one could forget. What remained had to be recovered piece by piece, fragments found across the deck, evidence of a force so powerful it defied normal understanding. Even decades later, those details continue to haunt the diving community, a permanent reminder of just how dangerous this world truly is. For years, the victims' families searched for answers. They questioned how something so catastrophic could happen during a routine procedure. And for years, those answers didn't come, until they finally did. More than 2 decades later, an official investigation confirmed what many had long suspected. The system itself had flaws. Critical safety measures had failed. The disaster wasn't just bad luck, it was preventable. Changes were eventually made, procedures tightened, safety improved, but none of it could undo what happened that night. On June 30th, 2019, Austin Howell, a well-known free solo climber, went out for what was supposed to be another normal day of climbing. By the middle of the day, that routine climb would turn into a tragedy on the cliffs of Shortoff Mountain in North Carolina. It was the kind of place he loved, beautiful, dangerous, and demanding everything from those who dared to climb it. Austin was 31 years old and far from ordinary. He was born in Friendswood, Texas, and discovered climbing at 19 while studying at the University of Houston. From that moment on, it became his passion. But his journey wasn't easy. In 2008, he suffered a terrible 35-foot fall at an indoor gym. The accident left him with broken bones, damaged vertebrae, and a serious brain injury. Recovery was long and painful, both physically and mentally. Many thought he would quit. He didn't. Instead, he came back stronger. Climbing became more than just a sport for him. It was his way of dealing with life. It gave him purpose and clarity. Over time, he became known in the climbing world for free soloing, climbing massive rock faces without ropes or safety gear. For most people, it sounds impossible. For Austin, it was everything. On that summer morning, he arrived at Shortoff Mountain with photographer Ben Wu. The air was heavy, and the cliffs stood tall and unforgiving. Austin started climbing. Wearing his usual tie-dye shirt and cap, he completed routes like Dopey Duck and Golden Rule smoothly, moving with confidence and control. Wu took photos as Austin climbed, capturing moments that showed his skill and focus. After some time, the photographer left, but Austin stayed. He wanted one more climb. Later, witnesses saw him attempting a difficult move on a dangerous part of the cliff. It only took a second. One small mistake. His grip slipped. A scream echoed through the area as he fell. Austin dropped to nearly 80 feet, hitting the ground with devastating force. Other claimers nearby rushed to help. 2 of them climbed down quickly to reach him. One tried to perform CPR, but his injuries were too severe. By the time emergency teams arrived about 90 minutes later, there was nothing they could do. He was gone. The news shocked the climbing community. Austin had always lived on the edge, fully aware of the risks. His mother had feared this day for years, especially after his first major accident. She had asked him to stop, to choose a safer path, but Austin never saw it that way. He believed life itself was risky, and climbing was simply his way of living it fully. After his death, people from around the world shared tributes. Friends, fans, and fellow climbers remembered him as passionate, fearless, and inspiring. His social media became a place where people honored his life and shared memories of the person he was. Some say this kind of ending is always possible in free solo climbing. But for those who knew Austin, he wasn't just chasing danger, he was chasing meaning. He found peace in places most people would never go, and in his final moments high on that cliff, he was doing exactly what he loved, climbing, focused, and free.